Scrappers, Tom from iScrap. We've had so many questions over the years about what cable is, how does my scrapyard classify cable, what grades are wires, what should I strip, what should I not strip. Some people like stripping power cables, some people think that it's silly. We're just going to go over some generic things, and we're going to start here on my right, your left. So these are two black wires. They look relatively close to each other, but they could not be further away in price. Here you have a generic power cord. This is going to be plugged to the back of something. This could have been for a router or something like this. Now, if you cut the ends on this, you would see the copper inside, and some people may say, oh, I'm going to strip that. But it's going to take a lot of work, and there's a lot of really fine pieces in here. If you look at something like this, this has a lot of big pieces of copper, so if there was two pieces of solid copper inside, it would be easy to strip. But inside here, you're going to have a lot of small hair wires. It's not really worth your time. Now, when you look at the colors, you have two different cables with the same color. You might just throw them into the same box. They are definitely different. This is Cat5 cord. This Cat5 cord is going to be much higher value. Now, this again is not something that you're going to be able to strip, because inside all of these different wires that you can see here are all individual cords. So unless you're going to strip the black sheath off the outside, then strip each of these individual ones, you're not going to be able to get that little bit of copper that's shown at the end out to be able to strip it. But this is about a 50% copper weight versus 50% plastic. This is 35% copper weight versus 65% plastic. So again, just because they're the same color doesn't mean anything. Here's another Cat cord. This is a Cat6 cord. Just means that there's 6 conductors inside. Again, not something that you're going to want to be able to strip. This is not something that's going to be worth your time, because you're going to take the white sheath off and all the other ones. There are some new Cat6 cords. We call them Cat6 Cross. Inside there's a white or clear plastic cross that acts as a tightener, so when they're running these wires, you know, as the copper cords get thinner and thinner, they're harder to move. The cross inside is great for installing. On the scrap side of things, there's more plastic. So while these two look alike, if this had the plastic piece inside, it's probably 42% copper opposed to 50%. So just things to look for. Another quick thing to point out, this has an end on it. You want to try to avoid selling things with large ends on it. Scrapyards see those, and they generally don't want to deal with those pieces because it's heavier plastic and contamination. Going down the line here, you guys remember these old phone cords inside of your kitchens, trying to stretch your ear all the way away while getting into that refrigerator nowadays. These are things of the past, but when you look, there's very small pieces of copper inside, right? These are very low grade value. This is 15–20% copper, sometimes even less. Never strip these. Number one, super hard to do. Number two, you're really not going to make more money. Sell it like it is. You can throw it in with your other extension cords, other low grade wire. Now, if you're not sure what low grade wire is and your scrapyard doesn't want to teach you, they might just have generic phrases, and that's not a good thing. That's where iScrap comes in really handy to learn more of these grades. So if they try to just say, oh, there's heavy and there's light grade, ask questions. This way you have a better idea. Excuse me. Next, we have a couple of different pieces of cable. Now, we consider these cable, and to us, cable is anything that you can strip. You know, this could be called a cable, but to us, on the scrap sense, anything that you can strip is going to be considered cable. Now, this is a piece of tin-coated copper. You can see the silver color on the outside, but with that cross cut, you can see the red on the inside to give you a clear difference. Silver, red, right? So this is obviously going to go as a bare bright. So this is going to go probably, if this had an insulation on it, a regular cable at my scrapyard and most scrapyards that I know, about 80–85% of it is going to be copper and the balance being plastic. Now, of course, you get to the Mac daddies of the cable world. This is your 750 MCMs. This is stuff that is about 90% copper, 10%. So when you look at what it looks like afterwards, ooh, very pretty. And of course, with high prices, you can cash this in for a pretty penny. But this is always something you want to be able to strip. If you don't, your scrapyard should have a high grade cable price for it, and you'll always want to be able to get that. Going down the line, no specific order. Again, this is a grounding wire. a lower grade wire. Probably about 50% of it is going to be copper, 50% of it is going to be plastic. Some people think when they see thicker wires that they're worth more money. Just look at the gauge of the copper versus the insulation. This might be worth less money than this, believe it or not, just going off of copper recovery percentages. Next up, you got your Firewire. There are multiple types. This one has, looks like 2 strands inside. This would be a lower grade Firewire. There are higher grade Firewires that have 4 strands inside. If you're not getting much of this, I would suggest just kind of mixing it in with this. Unless you get a lot of it, then you might want to separate it. Firewire should be worth more, but with different types of Firewire, now you start getting into the nitty-gritty of percentages, and you got a lot of questions to answer. Making our way down the row, of course everyone has these in their houses. Regardless of how many new ones you buy, you always find these old ones. Always want to cut this off at the end, this way you're not including the plastic in there. But these extension cords, people like stripping these. I've never found the reason why you should strip these. It's not really worth the time, in my opinion. Other people have different opinions, and that's fine. This is going to recover 30% copper, 70% plastic. And when you go to strip there's going to be like 3 or 4 lines inside, and this is where you have those really thin pieces of copper wire wound together. So those 3 sections could each have 10 to 15 strands of copper. So when you go to strip it, they're going to cut really easy, they're going to fall apart really easy, and it might make more of a mess. I would never suggest stripping this to any of you, any customers of mine. I just don't think that it's worth the time versus a return, even with higher copper prices. We know this is a longer video. Hopefully this answered some questions. All in all, if you don't know and your scrap yard does things differently, you got to ask them, right? We can give you the tools for the exact answers, but if they're not going to follow them, then you might need to figure out how to answer things differently. Guys, Tom from iScrap. Anytime you need anything scrap related answered, let us know. I'll scrap you later.